Affirmation apparel is available in the Choose store at www.tvivmn.com. Choose what you need as often as you need it.
Welcome to this episode of I.C.E. Inspire, Collaborate, and Encourage. Today, I am very honored to have Sheri or Berry Sheri or Moba Sheri, whichever one you want, as my guest. I've become friends with her through meeting her on TikTok. She is an author, a podcaster. She has had bariatric surgery, and she's just an all-around badass, master of badassery. So let's welcome Sheri. Hi, thanks for being on with me today.
How are you?
Really good. Really good. Well, I'm really excited about today because I am so happy that we've gotten to know each other and have had some conversations, because I feel like MOBA and I.C.E. kind of go together, and I feel like you kind of embody I.C.E., Inspire, Collaborate, and Encourage, because you inspire so many people with MOBA and being there for people in our TikTok community. Collaboration, you're collaborating with multiple people for MOBA apparel. We've been collaborating a little bit, which I'm having so much fun with. My friend Becky, who I should probably get into the comments here, sorry. As a side note, Jay will normally be producing for me, but he's not feeling well today, so I'm kind of doing double duty. So if I get a little bit lost, I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
And then encouragement. I know you encourage me on the daily, especially in the MOBA challenges. Sometimes I don't want to show up because I'm hurting. But I always feel better after I've gotten it done and we've had an opportunity to chat. I was really bummed that I had to log off today, but my phone was ringing. But I'm like, I want to talk to people. So let's say hi to some of our friends.
Yes.
Misty is here. Misty is from Canada. She's one of our
Hi, Misty.
friends. And then Morgana is from Kentucky.
Hey, Morgana.
And then Monica.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Monica. So can I tell you that I'm usually not very nervous, but I love putting other people in the hot seat. And not like today, I'm in the hot seat and I'm like, I have no idea what to expect, but I'm ready for all of it.
Just a combo between friends.
And, you know, whoever just happens to be watching right now. Hi, Becky.
This is true. Becky is another one. Becky is one of my industry friends, and I introduced her and Sheri so that we have this whole big collaboration thing going, and it's been a lot of fun, which makes me really happy. For some reason, the whole I.C.E. thing and now MOBA, it just fills my cup.
100%.
I feel so much better. And my challenge is that sometimes I need to realize when I need to step back and just take care of me. So it's that fine line. And this is a good comment. I'm going to pop this up here quick. Oops, that's the wrong one.
From Pennsylvania.
Role reversal, Sheri.
I know, like, I don't know how and Misty was just on my show last week, and I love putting people in the hot seat. I don't like being in the hot seat. So we're going to see how this goes.
All good. And before we get going too far, I want to, oops, I'm in the wrong tab. For our bariatric people, water and vitamin check. If you haven't taken your vitamin yet today, do that. I actually have done mine, and I have a new 40-ounce tumbler of water, and I'm trying Protein 2.0 that Mike Coods had recommended it, and it's super, super good.
I haven't tried that one yet. I just tried the Fit Crunch bar this morning.
Oh, which flavor?
It was chocolate mint, and that, I'm telling you, that stuff was really good.
I have had the peanut butter and jelly one, and I know that's a favorite for Misty because I love her. I love her reviews.
I do too. And I haven't tried any other brand yet, but if any of them are like this one, then I will definitely be a fan.
Hi, David. The Barclay. No, I just lost it. Barbell?
Barbell?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
See, I'm inside your head. I'm like manifesting. Yes.
And sometimes words are hard.
Words are hard. Numbers are hard.
Numbers are always hard for me. I'm going to take this.
Technology's hard for me.
That's why we have friends. Because we
That's
can
right.
always be like, help. I don't understand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's a mixture of people here. There's our very friends, but I have industry friends. And then I've posted this like to everyone. So tell us how far out you are from surgery and how you became an author and a podcaster.
So I ended up having the gastric sleeve in 2014. So September of this year will be 9 years post-op. And after I'd had the surgery, I think it was like about 2 years afterwards, I was getting into like Facebook bariatric groups and support groups. And I was posting like a lot of motivating things or like Motivation Mondays. And then people would ask me questions and I was able to give advice. Because when I had the surgery, there was no TikTok. There was not a lot of social media. So whenever I had an issue, I would turn to Google. And then Google, I would be like, Google, it tastes like I'm sucking on a penny. And I don't know what a penny sounds like, would taste like. I just assume that that's what it would be. Mm-hmm. And then you ask Google and Google says you have some rare disease or you're going to be dead in 6 months. So I was always freaking myself out. And I didn't realize, because I didn't have a community to talk to, that a lot of these things I was experiencing was normal. So now that I'm like more further removed, and I would join bariatric groups, people would talk about the hair loss. They would talk about the metallic taste. And I'm like, I actually know this one for once. I was like, you're not dying. It's going to be okay. And so then like I would be able to talk them through it. And my husband had said that maybe I should write a book or something about my experience. And I had blogged about my entire journey. I kept updating it every week. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like a really good idea. And then you put it on the back burner and then nothing happens. And then months would go by and then you make more posts, you're talking to more people. And I would tell my husband, maybe you're right. Maybe I should write a book about this. Cause like maybe people can, there's a lot of things that they don't prepare you for. And he's like, you should do it. And I'm like, you're right. I'm going to do it. And then nothing happens. And then finally in 2019, I'll never forget, it was June. And I was talking to somebody on the phone who was really struggling with like regain or like being at a stall. And I spent like an hour talking to her, and she was just so grateful that, number one, knowing that she wasn't alone. And she goes, I didn't know that this was part of it. Nobody prepared you to expect blood pressure dropping or like all of these other things.
Right.
And so I told my husband, I'm like, maybe I really should write a book about this. And he goes, you know what? I am so sick and tired of you talking about it. He's like, either do it or don't mention it again. And he was like kind of abrasive about it. And I was like, well, fine. So I literally stopped what I was doing. I went upstairs. I went to the computer. And then like, I just sat at this blank screen for 30 minutes. And I'm like, I didn't think this through. Like, how do you just freaking write a book? I've never written a book before. So I remembered that I had all these old blogs over the years. So I started printing out, certain blogs and then you're like, what do you include in it? Like, how raw do you get? Do you talk about constipation? Like, I had an experience that was life-changing in a negative way when it came to like constipation. And so I literally sat at this computer at a blank screen for 30 minutes. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I was like, this is stupid. And finally, an idea came in my head for the first sentence. So I typed out the first sentence, and then another one came, and then another one came. And then before you know it, a page was written. And then next thing I know, hours had gone by. I could not stop writing. It was almost like, I guess once I made the decision, my body was ready to release it.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I typed until I was literally falling asleep. I woke up in the morning. I typed. I went to work. I would type. I would come home. I would type. By day 3, I was icing my wrists because my wrists were hurting so bad.
Oh, no.
By day 5, Eric had to go and get me ACE bandages. My wrists were hurting so bad. But by the end of day 5, the entire thing was done. And I don't know what it was. Like, I don't know if it was serendipitous or the universe or whatever. I just felt like maybe this was the time. And once the first sentence, once you make the first step, a lot of it becomes easier after that. So I wrote this draft. And then I didn't do anything because I don't know anything about publishing a book. I thought maybe it was more therapeutic for me. I'll send it to a couple of people, get their input. And there was a guy who approached me who was going to be starting a brand new podcast specifically for weight loss. And I think he found me on Instagram or something, and he wanted to interview me. And we did this podcast pre-recorded, and it was going to take 2 to 3 months. He was launching this brand new podcast. It was going to be tons of production, like this whole shebang. And at the end we were talking, and I was telling him how like, oh, I just wrote like this draft of a book, but I know nothing on like what to do with it. So after the podcast, he stayed on the phone with me, and he was giving me resources like where to go to do editing and photographs. And it was my story. I didn't know how to formulate it. And so he said, you know what? He's like, I don't think it's doable, but if there's any chance that you can get this book published before the podcast airs, he's like, give me the website, give me the book and everything. He's like, I'll promote the crap out of it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how do you put together a website? Like, I don't know any of this. I'm not techie. So it was enough of a fire. I knew I had 2 to 3 months before this was possibly going to air. And if at least I knew that we were somewhere in production of it, if I could figure any of this out, then at least he could still promote it, and then we can like figure it out along the way. So I literally spent every ounce of energy that I had on finding editors, finding book covers, taking pictures, doing the whole shebang. And I literally spent morning, noon, and night outside of work just fixated on this. And on September 10th, I think the ebook was officially published on Amazon. And on September 11th, it was officially published in the paperback form. And the best part of this entire story is the guy's podcast has never aired. I never heard from him again. And I've tried reaching out multiple times this was 2019. Nothing ever came of that podcast.
It was like the universe was just trying to get you to.
I honestly, and I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And had that opportunity not come on board or whatever, I would probably be sitting on it today. I probably would have never published it.
I just think it's fantastic. And one thing I love about you is like, even if you don't know how to do something, you're like, okay, who can I ask? What can I do? Let's figure out what the next step is, and you make it happen. And that's such an awesome trait. And not everybody has that, or they have to like grow into it. And I know sometimes like in my life, I have where I'm like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. But as I've turned my mindset around to being more positive, okay, what if I fail? No, but what if I make it work? Mm-hmm. What can happen? You know, just like I was saying earlier about doing the podcast. If I mess up my words, oh well, I will laugh at myself, and we will move on.
Oh, I'm the first person that will laugh at myself all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people that like, I've been very blessed in that I don't have a lot of, well, I don't want to say that either. I do have a lot of tragedy. I'm one of those people that has everything that could possibly go wrong in a single day. And it's gotten to the point where it's happened enough times that I don't want to say that I expect it, because I don't want to bring that into my life, but I've learned to just laugh and be like, of course this is happening. Why wouldn't this be happening? And so I feel like if you can laugh when the shit hits the fan or whatever, then at least you have a better like sense of you can get through this. Because if you can laugh in the darkest moment, then you're going to be fine down the road.
And it makes it easier to pivot too. Mm-hmm. Like I told you earlier, I came home and we had no electricity. And I'm like, Houston, we have a problem. And so I'm like, okay, do I need to grab all my stuff and go back to the store and just put up with the doorbell ringing and stuff, or what? And so I called Jay and he fixed it, because that's what Jay does. He fixes stuff for me. And I'm like, do you think I should still go to the store just in case? He goes, no, I think you're okay. But if it goes out, give me a call and we'll take care of it.
We'll figure it out. And that's my thing. Like over the years, I used to be a very depressed kid, or I was a very depressed teenager. I was one of those people that would listen to sappy love songs on the radio and sit in my closet and eat cookie dough and cry my eyes out. And as I got older, I don't know, something shifted where I just became almost immune to emotion. And it's not that I'm not empathetic to people. I'm just not an emotional person, but I am more of a solution person. So I'm the one that like the minute something's going on, I immediately almost go into like a fight or flight mode where I was like, we just need to navigate ourselves out of this. I don't have time to think about the emotional components of it. I need to find the rational solution to get us, whether it's for me or for somebody else. So that's the way that my brain works. So I'm more like, if people are having a rough day, I'm like, let's find a solution. And I get it. Some people, that's not what they want to hear. They want to just, vent and scream and complain and moan. And I'm like, I'll let you do it for a little bit. I'll give you one session where you can, get it out of your system. But after that, you're coming to me because you want help finding a solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that. I've had to get better with boundaries as far as that goes. And it's like, I'm not going to do the work for you. But I'm willing to like help guide you down the path of whatever, if it's something that I'm good at. Because I don't mind sharing my gifts. I have the firm belief that there's enough room at the table for everyone. I love the fact that there are so many shirt, product, whatever creators in our community. And I know I'm not threatened by that at all. And I hope no one's threatened like by me. And I know that I was a little nervous because I didn't know you very well about the whole podcast thing. And you're like, no, the more the merrier.
Right.
So I just think that that's really cool. So
go ahead.
How long have you been doing the podcast? Has it been like a year, you said?
No, I think May is going to be the 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah. So funny story again is I had met somebody in the bariatric community and we had become friends. And I was telling her, because like I had MOBA at the time, nothing was really happening. It wasn't really growing very yet. So I was like finding different ways to grow it. And I had made a comment that I was thinking about starting a podcast or something about mindset, about being positive. Hell yeah. Women supporting women, baby. I'm all about it. All about it. So she's like, we need to do a bariatric podcast. And I'm like, I mean, I feel like that's a much smaller demographic. I mean, but, but I was like, you know what? I know nothing about podcasting. And I was like, that would be something to consider down the road. Like maybe we can talk about it or whatever. Well, the very next day she had everything set up. She's like, next Wednesday, we're doing our first show. And like, she just took the reins and I didn't have time to really think about it. I'm like, I know nothing about podcasting. I don't know anything about hosting. Like, where are we going to find people? And so she started finding people in the beginning. And when we did the first couple of them, I started having fun with it because it was kind of nice talking to other people about their journeys. Because on social media, you see people's pictures, you see people's whatever, but you're not really hearing like their entire story. And I was really fascinated about, the concept that, we all got to obesity for different reasons, obviously, but it was still the same emotional component, the relationship to food. And we've all had the surgery and we've all had such vastly different results and different experiences. There's things that we can relate to on some level, but everybody's story is 100% unique. And I love the idea of telling other people's stories. And I think we did it for a couple of months. And then I woke up one morning and everything was gone. Everything had been deleted. Everything had been changed. She removed me from everything. And she felt that we had different visions for how we wanted things to go. I think what it was is that she wanted to do things her own way. And having any kind of business and pleasure is not always the best thing to do.
Right.
But I was completely devastated. And I was like, I finally had found something that I was passionate about, that I was enjoying. And I felt like once again, after COVID, I said, the rug was just ripped from underneath me. And I remember calling Eric being devastated and he goes, do it yourself. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I was like, somebody else literally did everything. And he goes, well, you figure it out. That's what you do. Just figure out a solution. And then I get irritated. Like, can you just console me like for once? And he's like, no, figure it out. So I literally spent the entire day. I learned the program. I was like, I don't know how to do graphics. I put together like this cheesy little like intro or whatever. I called a buddy of mine who I had met doing the other podcast. And he goes, whatever you need, I got your back. Just tell me when to show up. And so he did the show with me. And I started kind of getting into now, obviously you make mistakes in the beginning. I had a lot of like snafus and audio issues. And I was literally just sitting on my couch, like doing everything. But in the last, I can't believe how much has changed just in the last 10 months. And if nothing else, the fact that I have met so many unbelievably amazing people.
Right.
Because like I said, on social media, you get 3-minute clips of people or a 1-minute clip, or maybe you're lucky and you get to meet them on lives and have a conversation. But to be able to have a more intimate experience with somebody and really talk about their story and how many of, like, not everybody's ever going to write a book about their life, or not everyone's going to have a platform. And I wanted to have a platform where it wasn't about having 1 million followers or 10 million followers. It could be somebody who's never even used social media. Like, I wanted every single person to be able to have a voice and have their story heard and recorded so that they can look back down the road and see how far they came. Or, you know, or somebody who's now 1 year out can look back 10 years from now and been like, I remember like how I was struggling with this. Remember like how, and then you can like really truly appreciate and be humbled by where you were later. And I wanted to be able to give people that. And so, because I mean, it fills my cup 100%.
Absolutely. For me, I had this brainstorm when Jay had his heart attack 3 years ago. ICE, or it wasn't ICE at the time. I just had these words. And he was in the hospital, and I'm like, okay, these are the things that I'm doing to help me get through this really hard time. I'm like, how do I navigate this? And he goes, well, make an acronym. So I came up with these 3 words, and I remember talking to Becky, and I came up with the thought of ICE. And then Jay and I did it together for quite a while, and we've had quite the array of guests. It's been not just like one walk of life, but people who really inspired us or, you know, collaborated together, things like that. And then it went away because my health went in the toilet. He's been recovering for these 3 years, and it just went away. And I just remember, well, Chaz was on last week, and that was my first show back. So probably 2 weeks before that, I just decided I'm going to do this again. This is what I want to do. This makes me happy, even if it doesn't do much for anyone but me. You know, maybe it helps one person, and it's something that it makes me smile, and I love having the organic conversations because, like I told you, I don't take a lot of notes because my husband is very scripted, you know, and regimented, and that's not how my brain works. I just look at like my second screen and go, I'm lost. And then I'm like,
I like, I don't know if you can curse. I like to refer to myself as shit show chic, where it's organized chaos, and I don't usually have a plan. And anybody who's been on my show usually knows that there's certain topics that, you know, we might discuss and like get into, but when the time comes, like it's just whatever comes out. And yeah, you might have like a small template on where to navigate, you know, to, in case like the show gets stagnant or lulled or you get to a stopping point. But most of the time you're just shooting the shit and like you just go with the flow.
Right. And I love what Missy just said. We are collectively more alike than we are different, and we just want to know we belong somewhere.
Absolutely.
I love that. I actually am really sad that I didn't find the bariatric community on TikTok prior to my surgery. I think that would have really helped, but I'm so thankful that I found it in the weeks after, especially with my complications. It gave me somewhere to like ask some of those questions. You know, is this normal, or is this my body being its screwed up self and I'm in the hospital again type thing?
Yeah, I wish I've been banned from Google. I'm not allowed to Google anymore.
I try to stay away from it because it does scare me to death. And my husband was in healthcare for years and years and years. And so he's just like, Dr. Google is not your friend. Not your friend. So a lot of people will know what this is, but some people who don't. So tell me what MOBA stands for and what is the MOBA mindset?
Oh my gosh. So MOBA stands for Master of Badassery. And it was a brand that my husband and I started in, we launched in December of 2020. And we wanted to promote the mindset that you could literally overcome any obstacle you were facing just by convincing yourself that you are capable of doing it. And sometimes just having the mindset of fixating on a specific goal and not letting anything stand in your way, whether it's financial issues or health issues or weight loss, or if you're struggling with family or any kind of obstacle, you can overcome it. And, Eric will tell people like it came from struggle. And we've been together, I think June will be 17 years, which I'm dating myself right now. It's very depressing. But we've been through the ringer over the years. And there were times where we were so flat broke that you are scrounging change for Jack in the Box tacos because they're $1, which I just found out they're now $2 for the same tacos, which is freaking crazy. It's freaking insane. But there was a time when like I could not find work during the recession. We were unemployed. The car's getting repossessed twice. We're facing eviction. The utilities are getting shut off, and you're just so completely defeated and depleted. And we're both close to 400 pounds at that point. Like you're just miserable in every aspect of your life. And sometimes all it takes is when you're so overwhelmed with so many different events going on in your life, it's really hard to fixate and know which one to fix first. And it reminds me of like when your house is fully cluttered and you're like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the bathroom, and you're going into the bathroom and you're cleaning it and you're like, oh, this actually belongs in the kitchen. And then you come downstairs and say, oh shit, the dishes are done. And then you start like working on the dishes, and then a call comes in and you have to go back upstairs. And at the end of the day, you are physically exhausted, but nothing was done. And you're like, what the hell? So sometimes just picking one specific goal and working on that to completion, I find that sometimes if you work on just one aspect, it's amazing how it naturally will trickle into other aspects. And then all of a sudden now you can tackle the next thing and it's not as daunting because some of the work has been done or whatever. And so the entire, mindset was about, small changes, but just keeping your eye fixated on the prize that you want, and whatever is thrown your way, you adapt to it and you find a solution.
I love that. I know for me with the MOBA challenges, I could not participate in the January planking just because I had been in and out of the hospital. I still was not well. But I'm like, I'm going to join this time. And it's like intentionally showing up, and I can tell the difference in how I feel. My knees know too. But overall, the positives of how I feel and making the connections, because I know at first I was really intimidated that, oh my gosh, these people are all friends, how am I going to fit in? I'm just, a newbie type thing. But for those out there, put yourself out there.
100%.
Such a difference. Nobody's going to be like, I'm not going to talk to you because you're too new. That doesn't happen. And it's the wrong person.
And it sucks because like I've only really been on TikTok for like 6 months now or something like that. Like I am a newbie to the TikTok, like the bariatric side of it. And when I first started watching lives, I see that it was intimidating because like people do seem to have natural connections and you're not part of it, but you're not going to be part of it unless you jump in it. And until you just try it, and then you find your people, or you find like your own little mini tribes within this giant community. And I did not know how much I was lacking in support and community until you're in the belly of the beast, the positive beast, not a negative beast, but like you don't realize like I missed out on so many years that I could have had support along the way, that I was genuinely bariatric side, I was on my own because I've been very lucky with small circles of friends and family that are very supportive and cheer me on. But at the end of the day, there's certain things that they'll never be able to relate to or understand. And it's not until, you join this community and somebody busts out a bottle of Tums and like, if you know, and I'm like, oh my God, like I so know. Or, people busting out the Miralax or like whatever. And like, oh, been there. Like, and it's just comforting to know that you're not alone and I've learned that every single person, every struggle that we have had, there's somebody in that community who has been there and can relate to you.
Absolutely. Now Morgana and Dave, husband and wife, they're pretty new. Morgana had her surgery first and Dave just had his. But she's like, I'm so grateful I found you ladies. And we feel the same way. And then for Misty, This is a really good one. Lives were so scary at first, they still can be. I get intimidated so often, which I never would guess by watching her on live and her videos. I so enjoy her. And I've really found, family, which sounds so weird to some people, but like there's a meetup in Chicago and I cannot wait. And I'm hoping to go to other ones too, because I so want to like meet these people and hug them and, just have the real life experience then as well. We've commiserated together. We've encouraged each other. It's amazing.
And the energy in person will never match to what you feel like through a computer screen. It is 1,000 times more potent in a positively amazing way. Yeah. It's just so fascinating because I made a lot of videos about this last year, but I threw my back out last year at the end of August, beginning of September, and I was laid up for 3 months. And it was amazing how all of these people that you are there for on a regular basis, all of a sudden you're on the opposite end of this conversation and the conversation is silent because nobody's there. And in September of last year, I fell into a really dark depression. I was alone. My husband was gone 15 hours a day. And it wasn't like I can just talk to him on the phone all the time. Like he's either working or he's in the canyon and he can't talk. And I literally would sit in silence all day long. And sometimes if I did talk to somebody like at 4 o'clock, it was the first time I uttered any words verbally out loud. And so it was so crazy to go from that. And I remember telling my husband, like, I don't know, I need you home. Like I need some kind of an interaction or a connection. And he's on the process of his own personal fitness journey. And so it was basically, I was asking him to sacrifice his personal health with the gym and stuff just to make me mentally happy or whatever. And literally within a couple of months, you're doing lives and you're making friends. And now it's gotten to the point where my husband will call me. I'm either on a Snapchat, I'm on a FaceTime, I'm on a live, I'm doing a podcast, I'm doing a show. And he's like, are you seriously never on the phone? I'm like, I can't help it. Like you weren't around. I found friends. I feel like loved and I have a community now. And now I feel that like it's gone from like one extreme to the other and I'm trying to find balance again. He's like, are you ever not on the phone? And I was like, no, it's a 24-hour thing now. But having friends is a 24-hour job now. And it's just such a vast difference from just even like 6-7 months ago. It's just so insane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that kind of leads me into my next thing. The TikTok community, and it's true of like any community that you're in, there are always going to be people that don't have your best interest, whatever. But there's been a lot of fairy drama. And I know you and I have talked about this. And from the standpoint of us, we're both very empathetic. And so that kind of depletes us. I know that you and I kind of talked about some different things that we thought could happen, and we just wanted to kind of talk about them now. What's the biggest thing that you see that could help the situation with the drama? Not necessarily like just the trolls coming in, but people like misunderstanding one another in our community.
I honestly think that the biggest issue within the bariatric, in any community, I see it more in the bariatric community right now, is the lack of communication. And like I said, you watch 2 to 3 minutes videos of somebody and you've based a persona around that person, or you see them in lives and you've created this version of Tanya that you see based on how you're presented on social media. And I think sometimes as we create unrealistic expectations of what that friendship is or what that expectation is. So if there's any element of being disappointed because of the image you created in your head, that can cause friction. At the same time, too, oftentimes you're dealing with so many different personalities and backgrounds and religions and ethnicities and political whatever. Oftentimes people will say things with a certain intention behind the words that they're speaking, but the person listening to it is going to interpret it in a much different way. And it doesn't mean that it's because we're not listening to each other. It's a way that we're not actively listening to each other. Because if I say something with intention, this is based on 41 years of my life story and my past and my, you know, grief and trauma or whatever being represented into a matter of words and then spewed outwards. But then the person receiving it has many, many years of their own completely separate story behind it and how they process information and interpretation. And then I think what happens is you're dealing with a community who have all dealt with obesity and have all dealt with insecurity and either not being seen or being abused in some way, or having people treat them like utter garbage for so long that they carry all of this with them. And if somebody thinks differently than you, or if somebody says anything of any criticism, you are responding it with an entire history, like almost like a PTSD kind of response. And we're also so afraid of confronting the person directly because we have a history. We don't like confrontation. We're people pleasers. So we're going to talk to this person over here, and we're going to, you know, try to get their feedback. And so I think that what the biggest problem is people are not talking to each other directly. They're not cleaning the lines of communication, because oftentimes, like I said, we interpret it, the way that we interpreted it was not how it was intended. And instead of making assumptions that you were being attacked, it's like, hey, you hurt my feelings when you said this, this, and this. And the other person likely is like, I did not even mean it in that way. Like, this is exactly how, and you're like, oh, well, this could have solved a lot of problems on social media. And I think that, you know, like there's a reason why people are obsessed with reality shows. There's a reason that people are obsessed with dramatic, you know, shows. It's like, there's something about the drama that shifts the focus away from your own personal struggles and issues. And you get invested in other people, because in some weird way, watching other people be a shit show somehow makes you feel better about yourself.
Yes, that is completely and utterly true. And I think, you know, some of the drama per se, you're always going to have those people that just want to stir the pot.
True.
And sometimes with those people, if you can identify it and just move on and don't give credence to it, then they're going to like flame out and just go away, because they're not getting the attention
right
that they are wanting. I went into a live last night and things were a little bit tense, and I was really proud of a couple of people, because actually the whole panel was amazing, because they were like, why do you keep bringing this up? We've talked on this panel, and it's all fine now.
Right.
So if you want to stay, awesome. But if you're going to continue this, then move along. And I agree. Was like, yes. And those aren't easy things to say.
It's not, and people don't like hearing that, and it breaks my heart. Like, and I've been very vocal about this, like recently, is the first year of bariatric surgery, to an extent, it's a lot of sunshine and rainbows. Yes, you have, like, you're throwing up, like, the, you know, there's a lot of mental struggle, but the overall picture of the first year, the scale is moving. That first time you cross your legs, you know, the first event that you do, the first walk, there's so many NSVs that keep you on this high. And those highs is what keeps you on this momentum to get through the first year and a half. Something shifts in the middle of the second year where the scale's not moving. Either you're already at your goal and you're maintaining, or you have the last 10 pounds or whatever, that you realize, okay, the honeymoon phase is over. Now is the time when relationships start changing, because your attitude about yourself is changing, only because you're feeling more confident and you have more energy. There's a lot more of a mental struggle that comes with it. And I think people just don't yet know how to deal with it and what works best for them. It makes us very overly sensitive on people. If anybody has any kind of a criticism or whatever, we internalize it so hard, because that's how we did it our entire lives. So you can, and just like on social media, you can have 1,000 followers and 999 people tell you on a daily basis that you're amazing, they love you, you're perfection, you are #goals. And then one person says you cheated. You are now going to fixate on one person out of all of these things, because that's how we've been conditioned for so many years, that the thing that I try to promote to people, focus on the 999. But what happens is one person made a comment. So now you feel a need that you have to make a video to address the one person, but thousands of people didn't know that that comment existed, but they see your video. So now people are flocking to it. And then other people are like, well, that's not cool. So now they're making videos and they are literally continuously adding fuel to this fire. Whereas if you just click delete or just click block, none of this would have happened. But I feel like, you know, you get to a certain point where you're feeling more confident, where you feel that for oftentimes you never stood up for yourself before, or you never clapped back, or you always took the punishment, that this feeling just gives you like this empowerment, like I'm finally standing up for myself. And I'm not saying I wasn't like that for a long time. I was the same way. I started standing up to myself. It makes you feel very empowered. But then I realized it was painting me in a negative light, because if people are only, because now you have new social media, you have new followers every day. You have new people looking at you. Right. Now, if they see that one video of you where you had a momentary weakness, where you clapped back, they're going to be like, oh, she's kind of a B. Like, I don't want to be associated with that. And they're now not focusing on the other positive things that you've done. So I strongly encourage people, we're going to have haters in this life, not even just in the bariatric community. I've had people tell me to my face at a book signing event that I cheated, that yeah, I lost weight because I took the easy way out. And so you have two options. You can either let that affect you, or you can clap back and come off as an aggressive B, or I either walk away from it, or now I've learned to be like, yeah, I did cheat. I cheated death. And that's all you need to know. And then just leave it at that. But I think, again, people are finding their voice at this phase. They are finding their, confidence in themselves. I think that sometimes we don't use the best approach. Again, we don't know how to properly communicate it. And
the mental part, like in my program, it was very heavily hit upon, but it's not always. And so those that didn't have a program, that didn't require the therapy and things like that, I think it's harder. It's hard enough when you've had, some of the therapy to get through that. But some of us, we may have skipped over entire like real world things through our teenage and adulthood years, that we don't know how to handle these things.
Right.
Before we go on, Morgana said about, the clickbait. It's like, stay away from the clickbait.
I don't invest in it.
This is a really big problem, seeing others on lives where they're bashing someone else in another live. It's upsetting that there's such toxic energy when we need to accept one another's flaws included. And I totally agree with that. How I handle that is I turn around and I exit, because I don't need that type of negativity. And in my real life, where I know people, I've talked to my friends and my family, and it's like, you're either going to support me, or, in the case of Becky and Jay, I'm like, how will you feel when I start losing weight and stuff like that? And completely supportive. And speaking of Becky, watching Tanya's journey, nothing about it has been easy.
It's not.
And she's been there for the the good, the bad.
It was definitely the hardest thing I'd ever done. And I did a lot of shit, and that was definitely the hardest thing I'd ever done. Yeah. I don't know. Let me ask you a question. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat. Right. Did you have a pre-op diet?
Yeah, but it wasn't all liquid. It was weird. It was a very specific, I had a choice. I could do like the all liquid diet that I would get from Mayo, or I could do a very specific diet where the meals, you had to have them exactly. Like, one of them was canned chili. And I was like, I don't like canned chili on a normal day. Can I make my own chili? They're like, no, but it has to be the canned chili. I'm like, okay. So that's the one I chose. So I did get food, and there was like the lean cuisine steamers. I could have some of those, but it was like weird combinations. And that was for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it was completely doable.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely do food. I've talked to people who were on 4 weeks of liquids. I've talked to people who were on 2 weeks of liquids. I've talked to people who were able to eat food or like shakes in like one meal.
Mm-hmm.
I had zero pre-op diet. So then my question is, which journey is the correct way to go? And I think that's what frustrates me so much on social media specifically is the infamous debates, straws or no straws, moderation or no moderation, artificial sugars or not, protein shakes or not. If you drink a protein shake, how does that affect my body? If you use a straw, how does that affect my relationships with people? If you are able to do moderation and I personally can't, because or role reversal, I can do moderation. After 8.5 years, I know to keep certain things not in the house because I will overindulge if it's physically in front of me. Out of sight, out of mind. If I go to an event and there's food, I know that I can enjoy myself during that meal, but I'm not going to go home and think about it to the point where I'm going to go to the store and have it. That works for me. I've trained my brain over years of focusing on the bigger picture, and I am more powerful than what the food can bring to me. Like the food no longer fixes emotional things that I'm going through. That took me years to get to. Other people are not there yet, and that's okay. So if somebody says I can never have a rhesus again because that will trigger me and go down a dark path, then don't have it. But what I don't like seeing from people is people saying, yes, you can do. No, here's the thing. If you have a rhesus or don't have a rhesus, that is not going to affect my mind, body, soul, emotions, whatever. You need to do what works for you. I'm sure that there's studies being done. I'm sure that, people can do extensive research. I've seen extensive research that would say that straws are okay. I've seen people argue in papers that straws are not okay.
Right.
I've talked to doctors that say as long as it doesn't affect your stomach or upset you or give you like gas bubbles, then have it. I've seen other people say no. So what difference does it make what people do? Because here's the thing. Even if you are telling somebody not to have artificial sugars or not to do moderation or whatever, and let's say that they do, and then down the road they have regain or they have setbacks, then if they came to you for advice and be like, look, my suggestion is if you cut out this, this, and this, you will likely get to results. But I think there are some people that sit very high on their thrones when it comes to what they think is best for everyone because that worked for them. And then they like almost attack you for not doing what they're doing. And then if you fail at what you're doing, haha, I told you, you should have been on my side. And I'm like, that's not what this is about.
Right. It's not about sides.
It's all about what works best for you. I have people coming up to me often, I'm at a stall, like, what do I do? And I don't say you need to do this, this, and this. I ask them, what are you doing now? Tell me what you're doing now. If somebody's drinking soda right now and they're drinking 2 to 3 cans, I go, okay, let's do 1 can. I'm not gonna encourage you to cut cold turkey because I think personally, from my experience, if you cut cold turkey, you're gonna be thinking about it 24/7.
Yes.
And so I said, okay, well, how about this? What is your water goal? Well, I only get 24 ounces. Okay, you want that Diet Coke or you want that soda? Give me 50 ounces first. If you can drink 50 ounces, which is doubled what you're doing now, enjoy the freaking crap out of that Coke or whatever is going to bring you happiness. It's about finding solutions that work for you on a personal basis, that work with your schedule, your kids, your husband, your life, and finding things that are going to like maintain you long term. I'm not going to tell you, do not ever do this, this, and this, because some people can do that and get the results that they want.
Right. And with every program being different and every doctor being different, somebody asked me the other day, well, what's the difference in why all these doctors think all these different things? Because it's their experience that they've had with their training, their patients, or whatever. Like my doctor could not have scrambled eggs for I can't remember how long. And I thought that was so weird because I'm like, they're soft, why can't I have them? But she had an influx of patients that the scrambled eggs were getting stuck because they weren't getting, because they're already soft. You don't think about chewing extra. And so that was a problem. So no scrambled eggs. And I'm like, well, that's just a really weird one. I'm obviously drinking with a straw. For me, I found that I was getting more air by drinking out of my tumbler, because apparently I don't drink right, than I
I've
was
had
with
that
this.
happen.
And actually, when I was in the hospital, they kept bringing me a doggone straw. And it's like they weren't taking the bariatric, you know, philosophy. And so I would forget, and I'd be, oh, I can't have a straw. But I'm also, I didn't start drinking with the straw until like 3 months out either, because I wanted to make sure that
Right.
my new tiny tummy was healed appropriately.
I think what sucks too, and people need to remember, a doctor's job is called a practice.
Yes.
It's called a practice for a reason. There
Mm-hmm.
is no 100% definitive explanation for why things happen the way they happen. The reason they call it a practice, I assume, certain decisions are made based on studies that are done and averages of results. Not everybody is going to be amongst the average. It's an average because some people are going to be over here, some people are going to be over here. So like, all right, on average, like I think this is safe to be in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you and I had surgery on the same day and we were the same height and the same weight and we were sisters, we're still going to have completely different results. And you're going to be able to tolerate things that I can't, and I'll be able to do things that you won't be able to at that time. So you need to start being more of an advocate for yourself. And I'm not saying don't seek advice from people. If you want to find out what protein drinks work for some people or don't, then get opinions. But at the end of the day, you're going to know what tastes good to you. You're going to know what you enjoy. You know what you're going to tolerate. And just don't push that onto the masses after that. Say, this is when people ask me what I eat in a day, what do? I said, for me, I can only tolerate X, Y, and Z. But that's just me. You might be able to tolerate more or less. You might be able to handle more or less, and that's okay. So it's about, adapting to listening to your own body, listening to your own gut. Women's intuition is freaking amazing, let me tell you.
Yes, it is.
She's always right, and it pisses me off. But it's about learning your own body and your own way of doing things.
Absolutely. I'm going to pop up this comment here. Everyone's journey is different. My job is not to judge, but I'm here to support in any way I can. And I love that.
Absolutely.
Because other people, like in my case, and I can think of R.N.Y. Craig, people who have had problems, whether they were a direct result of the surgery or not, we're going to be completely different than someone else. So to be like, well, you have to do this because this is the way my program did it, and everything is just unfair. And right. I love the fact that I'm here to support any way I can, because that's what I'm trying to do. And have I found myself, feeding into it a little bit at times? Yep.
We're human.
I choose to back away and evaluate, okay, why am I being like I'm being right now? Why do I think that this is important for my life? Can I add value to maybe diffuse the situation? And if I can, awesome. If not, I back away. Because it's not good for my mental health to go down that road. So.
I'm a firm believer that when it comes to any kind of toxicity or negative or whatever is being thrown at you, you have two options. You can let it consume you and feed into it, or you find a solution out of it. And that's actually how MOBA came to be, was during the pandemic. And when everything shut down and people could no longer work, and the social media, this is before TikTok for me, but the social media was people on different sides constantly fighting with each other. It was people panicking and freaking out and not finding toilet paper. And then there was murder hornets at some point. And then like there was all of this destruction and devastation, and everybody was angry. And they were angry because they were scared. This was unprecedented. Nobody knew what to do. And people were turning on each other because they didn't know what the answers were. And so if somebody didn't think like them, just like in the bariatric community, you were constantly attacked for not having the same belief, but people were just trying to navigate through themselves.
Yes.
And so I I was feeding into that, and I was becoming negative, and I found myself getting into these keyboard warrior conversations, and I'm like, click, click. And Eric would be like, what? It's 2 a.m. Stop doing it. And I'm like, I need to make my point known. And he goes, no, you don't. And I'm like, they need to understand. And I was feeding into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not who I am.
Right.
So I decided I needed to change my approach to everything. So I would go into the supermarket in hopes that there would be one roll of toilet paper that I can find. And every single person is angry and frustrated. The cashiers are pissed off because they're getting yelled at on a daily basis. But you don't realize that because you're in your own little bubble and it's all about you. So I started looking people in the eye and I started smiling. And I would go in every market that I walked into, I would find the manager and I said, look, if you need temporary help, I can send you a resume. I haven't done retail in a very, very long time, but I want to contribute somehow. If there's a way that I can make somebody's life a little easier and bring some help, I would like to do that. And I noticed that in talking to the cashiers, and I would say like, how's your day going? And I was trying to make them smile, or I'll crack a joke. And I noticed that their demeanor was changing. And I ended up getting a job at a Walgreens. My sister-in-law got me a job, and I instantly regretted how much I freaking hated retail because I hadn't done it like in 20 years. And I didn't know what retail was like in the middle of a pandemic, when it is your fault that there's no more sanitizer and there's no more Lysol wipes and murder hornets are still running rampant and you don't know what to do with yourself. And after a month, my back was hurting. My knees were hurting. I was complaining. I was getting rude to customers because they were being rude to me. Mm-hmm. And then one day I was closing and I couldn't take it anymore. And somebody came to the register and I said, look, hypothetically, everything's open tomorrow. The restaurants are open. Everything's open. Where are we going for dinner? And he had his mask on and he's looking down and he's like, what? And I was like, hypothetically, everything's, and I'm like being as animated as possible. I'm like, everything's open. The restaurants are open. Where are you taking me for dinner? And he finally like looked up and he thought about it. And he said Maria's, which was a Mexican joint down the street. And I was like, oh my God, I freaking love their fajitas. Uh-huh. And he's like, have you ever had their bean dip? And we start having this conversation about a restaurant. And it was the first time that there was even a glimmer of hope that one day things are going to be open again, you know? Mm-hmm. And he left, well, he was wearing a mask. I could tell from his eyes he was smiling though. He left in a much better demeanor. And the rest of the shift that night, I asked every single person who came to the register the exact same question. And one by one, their attitudes were completely changing entirely, to the point where a month later, when things were open temporarily, people were coming in and they're like, Sheri, Maria's is open. We need to go get some tequila. We need to go have a, and I'm like, let's go. Like, this is amazing. And they were excited. Yeah. And granted, it shut down again, but you know, for a few months. But it's just a point of being is like, there's going to be toxicity in this world. On social media, there's going to be toxic people. Yeah. You can either feed into the drama and exasperate it and burn the weeds down because you're pissing flames all over the place or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or on an individual case-by-case basis, you can just show kindness to people. I'm not saying you have to give every single person your deepest, darkest secrets, but I show compassion to everybody. And I know that there's people who are often put in a negative light because of their personalities or whatever. I know that we're all tortured souls. And sometimes our attitudes towards people or our videos are an emotional internal reflection of whatever's going on in their day that day. It's not a reflection of who they are as a person. And sometimes just asking the question, how you doing today? Or cracking a joke, I get to see other sides of people that other people aren't seeing, just because I'm taking the time to understand why they are the way that they are.
We all have the power by even changing one little thing. Mm-hmm. Like you changed and asked that question. We all have that power in our lives to make that one little change that could change the course of a conversation. Mm-hmm. It could change the course of a relationship. I have friends that I honestly couldn't stand when I met them. Mm-hmm. They just rubbed me the wrong way, but I'm so happy that like I gave it another shot, because typically they've ended up being some of my best friends ever.
Do you know how many times people tell me that they thought I was a B?
I know I'm one of them that said it.
Yeah. But yeah. But that's the reality. But like all it takes if you're sometimes all it is just saying hello,
Yeah,
just saying hi, or just taking the time to get to know somebody. Like if you want to see change in the community, it's not expecting other people's to do better, be better, have a better attitude. It starts with you. It starts with this
absolutely.
person right here and how you're going to interpret the information and how you're
Mhm.
going to look at the situation. And if that means scrolling on, then you scroll on. If that means being a devil's advocate to help somebody try to understand the perspective of the other person, then do that. But you can't change this community as a whole by constantly pointing fingers at who the perpetrators are in the community. It starts with yourself. And if you strive to be the most genuine, authentic, honest person that you can be, those are the people that are going to want to aspire down the road, and they're going to start to see other people acting like that, and they're going to start changing their attitude and trying that approach. But if you're waiting for other people to do it, it's not going to
No. And I really believe in the philosophy that you are most like the people that you hang out with the
happen.
most. And that has been so true for me. My circle, I mean, I still am friends with everybody, but my circle is much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to gravitate towards those that have a positive attitude or are willing to give of themselves without like losing themselves, or that are willing to have a conversation and collaborate with me and not be threatened because I might be able to do something better than them, or that I might take something away
Mm-hmm.
from them somehow. And that's made me a better person. It's made me more cognizant of the fact that sometimes, like yesterday was the day I told you, I
Mm-hmm.
had to stop. I made myself a shirt and everything. Inhale positivity, exhale negativity, because I was kind of in a piss poor mood yesterday.
Yeah.
And I just, I had to move on. I'm going to pop this comment up here from Misty. Brene Brown said she asked herself, are they doing their best? And I use that when someone cuts me off or is rude in a store. I ask
Mm-hmm.
myself, are they doing their best today? And that's so true. We don't know what somebody might have gotten the worst news of their life, or they might be going through something that's just really hard. And maybe they're not even aware of how they're coming off. Because I know that
Right.
that is how I ended up being in the last year before my surgery. I didn't realize how badly I was being. And sometimes people were tiptoeing around me because I was so miserable. I was making everyone else miserable. And that makes me feel
Right.
horrible now. But now, for the most part, everyone around me, my staff, they're happier because most of the time
Mm-hmm.
I, am much more pleasant to be around. Do I still have my days? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Everybody does.
But I mean, how many times have you been at the market and some lady behind you was being a jackass and you just assume that she's a miserable person or whatever the case may be? And social media is the worst at it. We will base an entire assumption on somebody on one person's emotional moment of weakness, not knowing the story, not knowing what caused them to do that. And then what happens is, I agree with you, we're a product of our environment. So we either find people who are slightly better than us that can, lift us up to get to their level, or we surround ourselves with people who are miserable like we are, that we can just, collaborate our misery together. And we have two options. Like, we can feed into it or we can set an example. I'm one who tries to set an example. And if I see stuff that's negative, I either scroll on. I don't make negative, videos or anything. I will turn something into a positive. And I think that oftentimes people are seeing it and they want to be a part of that. So they want to join in the negativity. But I think if more people can take a second and be like, wait, let's be positive. Let's do something different. I think more people will start gravitating towards that, because when you're negative, it is exhausting. It is draining. For me, it will give me headaches. Like, it just completely consumes me. But if I take the time to get to know somebody, if I take the time to do something positive, it releases my own endorphins. It puts me in a better mood. And then when somebody comes to me and being like, that made my day, and then they are doing better in their day, that's going to lift me up.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. And that's what I get from MOBA. We're right at an hour now. So I want you to tell people how they can get involved with MOBA, where they can find your book and your gear, and how they can find you.
So if you Google Sheri Arcuria, that's my name. I am literally plastered all over the internet in positive ways. Let me say positive websites. For MOBA gear, you can go to mobamentality.com, which I have now this morning. I just put the book on the MOBA website.
Oh, awesome.
So that people can now get the book with the MOBA gear, because before it was just on my personal website. And I think people will like to save on shipping and not have to, pay shipping twice. So you can now go to mobamentality.com, or you can go to Barry Sheri, BARI, Sheri, SHERI.com. It'll take you to the same place. And so we are planning on launching new products in the next 2 weeks, because Tanya's helping me with that. So we're excited to, yes, I love the lightning design too. I'm really excited.
I love the fact that you let me play.
Of course. So the thing with MOBA, and because I know we're going to have to go soon, is I know like with a lot of brands, it's one logo that defines who they are. Nike has the check mark, and Adidas has their 3 line, whatever it is. I didn't want one thing to define MOBA, because MOBA is defined and interpreted differently with every single person that comes across it. So personally, I loved having different designs that represented MOBA. And the great thing is we've actually had people approaching us saying, would you be okay if I design something like for what it means to me? And I said, oh my God, of course. So we have people coming up with their own interpretations of what it means to be badass, or what have you overcome. And so I love the idea of, working with other artists, who get to show their expression with the mindset. And then I love working with other small businesses. Our hats are done with a small business in San Diego, California. They make our cork hats. We work with small businesses who do printing for us, or do like designing for us, or do marketing with. We just launched decals from another small business who's putting those together. So we love the idea of supporting each other. And Tanya and I have talked about this. Tanya sells clothing. I sell clothing. I have never once looked at her as competition or a threat or whatever. I love the idea that we can find ways to work together to lift each other up, instead of spending energy trying to outdo somebody else or trying to beat somebody. Like, that's not what this is about.
Oh, Misty, you're going to make me cry. I love that.
If I had emotions, I would cry right now. I do come off as a heartless bee, though, but I freaking love Misty.
Just talk to us, Misty.
Getting involved with MOBA, just send me a message, like however you want to get involved. And there's a bunch of things that I want to do. I personally, I want to work on something for Pride Month. I want to work on something for breast cancer awareness. I want to work on something specifically in the marathons and the 5Ks. We're working on something right now. We get a lot of support from families of the military. We want to send our support back. Eric's going to be working with a veteran organization that works with PTSD for veterans through fitness. And they're thinking of starting a podcast and doing that. So like the thing with MOBA is we want it to be all inclusive to everybody, because it's not just a fitness. It was never a bariatric program. We're doing very well in the bariatric community, but it was never originally designed just for that. It's I have people that I know personally who've overcome cancer, and it's because they had the mindset and they truly visualized what it was going to be like on the other side of radiation. And so we want to have specific designs for that. Like Missy can relate. I'm a dancer at heart, and I would love to have dance wear that's MOBA based, or, so anyway that anybody wants to help contribute or be a part or collaborate, I welcome any and all suggestions.
And right now there is, and this is more the fitness related, but I really encourage anyone of any fitness level, because like I'm at the very beginning because my mobility before surgery was absolutely shot. I was walking with a cane. So it's available twice a day. You don't have to do twice a day, but 11:30 Central Standard Time in the morning and 8 o'clock.
Wait, Central.
Time.
It's
wait.
So it's okay. So it's 11:30 Central Time,
yes,
and then 8 p.m. Central Time.
Yes.
I think because I usually do Eastern Time because it's easier for me to travel back to Pacific. So I know it's like 12:30 Eastern Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We on TikTok we've been doing MOBA challenges where every month we're gonna pick a new challenge. The month of March we were focusing on wall sits. We are now entering next week. We're gonna be doing we started squats this time. And we're just going to keep going. It started in January. We didn't do anything in February. I didn't know that there was a high demand for it. But now I have no plans on stopping. So every month we're going to pick a new challenge that my goal is by the end of the year, we're doing like full 30, 40-minute workouts twice a day. And it's just going to be a compilation of all the challenges we've been doing.
And you know what? I love it because my employees think I'm absolutely crazy. But it's making it more aware. I love the fact that Val got people in Walmart to do wall sits and a plank. And you can meet yourself where you're at. If you can't do the whole time, then fine. It's finding your base for yourself and going up from there to make yourself better. You're not in competition with anyone. I mean, granted, there can be a competition at the end, which is just fine.
Yeah.
But overall, it's to see yourself get better and have those challenges. Because honestly, even 2 months ago, I would not say that I would be able to do wall sits, a plank, and squats. No way.
This is the most I've done like on a daily basis since my back has gone out. And even I've been worried about certain exercises. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people message me that they want to do it, but they're not where we are yet. And I'm like, that's the thing. None of us are where we are. We're all starting this together. If you can't do a full minute, do 20 seconds, do 10 seconds. If you've never done 10 seconds before, do 10 seconds and then do it for a week and then move up to 20 seconds. The point is that we want to encourage people to do something and push themselves that they've never done before, because we don't know what we're capable of until we do it. And if we keep making excuses, I can't do a plank, I can't do this, then you're not going to.
Exactly.
But
you're going to improve.
Sprinters did not start sprinting. They started with their couch to 5K, or they started with a walk, or maybe some people started sprinting. I don't know. Some people are superhuman, but like for the most part, we all started somewhere. We didn't lose 100 pounds overnight. You know, it took time, and it took, getting into rhythms and getting into routines and adapting to new lifestyles. And when it comes to fitness, that's just another element to it. You have to start somewhere to know what goals to shoot for.
And that's with anything. It's with your finances. It's with your relationships. It's with your relationship with yourself. Because a lot of people put themselves last when they need to be putting themselves first. Thank you so much for being on today. I know I could talk and talk and talk forever.
I can too. It's fine.
So I really appreciate this. For everybody out there, look up Sheri on TikTok, Instagram, Book of Faces, all the places. YouTube is where her podcast is, and that's on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, 8:30. Oh no, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yes, okay. My bad.
Okay. It's really amazing. Yeah, and just let me know if you know of anyone who wants to be on the show or that you think might be good on either one of ours. We're all here for it.
Yeah, because Tanya's gonna be on my show. We haven't set it up yet.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And okay, this wasn't as scary as I thought I was gonna be. So I actually don't mind being in the hot seat for a while. Hopefully I didn't talk too much.
No, you did amazing. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, because I love this, and I would definitely come back again and just invite myself over.
Okay, that works for me. I'm going to pop you backstage, take care of a couple of things, and I'll talk to you in a minute.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. I greatly appreciate it. Sorry, I have this really weird sun thing going on. Check out previous episodes of I.C.E. They look a little bit different. When we were doing them before, you'll see my husband doing some of them. We kind of tag teamed it. This time it's kind of like all my baby. He might step in occasionally and he might produce for me, but and let me know if there's anything you'd like to see. Have a great day, everyone.